So Michelle, to start us off, take me back to that first trip to Uganda in 2010. What do you remember most vividly about arriving there? And what was it about that experience that stayed with you after you returned home?
Yeah. So I went to Uganda for the first time in July of 2010. It was a 28-day mission trip. There were 11 of us, and I think only I was one of 2 people that didn't know anyone else. I think the other 9 people all knew each other. So then I kind of walked into that like, okay, I don't know anyone. And there was another person that didn't know anyone too. It was a great team. While we were there, we were visiting a lot of schools. We were like hanging out with the children there, the students. We prayed in a hospital, or like we went to the hospital to pray over people. We did a construction project. We were like helping build a 2nd-story high school classroom building. And yeah, we did some like door-to-door evangelism. We got to do a little bit of everything, which was really cool. And then we were in the city a little bit. And then most of our work though was like with students. We would have to do, we did like little performances, and like we were always welcomed with so much joy. I would say like that was the biggest thing that I saw, like going to Uganda. The like first impression was like how much joy that you like see in these kids and the students and just the people like in their everyday lives, the singing, the dancing, the hollering. It's just so fun and so joyful. So that was one thing. I would say the other thing was just the generosity, and I'll get into it a little bit. I guess I'll give a little bit of background of like, we did all of this stuff throughout those 28 days. It was like the last week of the trip. We were at a school in Busambatia, and I met one of the students, Boney, and we were playing soccer. Like that's how we originally met. I picked him to be on my soccer team. And then from there, like after soccer, we went back to like play card games, learn dances, like just hang out, while we were like waiting to eat and all that. And so, over and over, like Boney and I we just like always gravitated to each other. We were writing notes back and forth to each other, and, I'd like send him with a note, and then he'd come back the next day and he'd come back with a note, but then he would also have like a sweet treat for me. And so just like, that's where I'm like, okay, the generosity of like, he like doesn't have much to give, but yet he's like, I'm coming and I want to give you this. And like, I could keep it for myself, but like, I want to be generous. And so that was just a huge thing. Like I stayed friends with him, or like we exchanged emails. And then that really was like the start of like our friendship. Because then going back to the US, we like stayed in contact, and then that's how the Mawanda Project started. So yeah, I would say like the generosity was the big thing, the joyful piece, and then like the lasting relationships is like what I took back. So like it wasn't only Boney. It was the people that we were working with there. I still stay in contact with a lot of them and checking in, and some of them are still doing ministry, the like similar ministry things. Or it was really cool when I went back to Uganda a couple years ago. I went to the school that we helped build that like 2nd-story classroom, and one of the people that was leading our trip, or like hosting us, she was now the head teacher of the secondary school. So just to see so like her growth, to have stayed in touch with her, and like, to just see the like full circle piece of like her being part of this ministry and then being the like head teacher at the school. That's it was amazing. Yeah.
That's so cool. Something I want to touch on that you've kind of encompassed here. And in the last episode, when I interviewed Esther Tro about Rahima for Kids, which is another organization in Africa, she actually touched on those exact things that you took away from your experience with the kids that you work with, their joy. They don't have much, but look at the joy that they have. And I think another common misconception that a lot of people here in the West have about missions is that we in the West are going to help others, which yes, that's true in some ways. However, the things that they teach us and they give us are almost more impactful and like and sometimes longer lasting for us than the help that we give to them. Think of the perspectives that you're given as somebody who has things here in the West, looking at someone who doesn't have a lot and saying, look at the joy that you have. I want that, you know? And so how wonderful it is that you're confirming and like almost just saying, yes, that is so true about the people there. And I just think that that's so wonderful. So Michelle, Boney seems to be at the heart of the Mawanda Project. So can you tell us a little bit more about your relationship with him and how that relationship has kind of structured the Mawanda Project where it is now?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I got Boney's email. I came back to the US and I started emailing him, but it really was his dad's email. And so in that, I started emailing Pastor Dan. So he's a pastor in Uganda, where they're from. And we just did life together. It felt like it was like we would email back and forth, the joys, the hardship, like what can I pray for? And so it just felt like a friendship that was like building and forming. And I was helping provide like school fees for Boney and his sister Helen, who I actually met. She was at the school also. And so I was helping with their school fees. And so I would get pictures. I'd get like, here's where your money's going sort of thing, you know? And so just seeing that, I was able to like see, okay, like what an impact this is making, like this smaller dollar amount, and it's giving them an education. They get their books, their bedding, everything they need to go to school. And so with that, I also was able to see just like Pastor Dan's heart for his children, other children, like underprivileged children's, orphans. He was just like sharing, hey, you know, there's these kids in needs. We're trying to help them. And I would get to share just my life updates. That was like for years. I would say from 2010 all the way up through 2014, like it was just doing life with them. And so in that, like over time, it was like, okay, like I want to do more to help. Or like now that I know all that, I'm getting these pictures, like how can I here in the US get others to do what I'm doing, like helping with these education fees. And so that's kind of what started it. In 2014, I raised $1,500, and the goal was to send 15 students to school. And that was like $100 each. And Pastor Dan had already identified like, hey, here's 15 students, like they would just need $100 each. And so I asked friends and family like, hey, would you be interested in donating? And I raised that money. And essentially it's like that $1,500, I sent it over. And then Pastor Dan and I kind of got into this conversation of like, well, does it make sense to send these kids to all different schools and like have to keep paying their fees when we have those students that we can just start our own thing? And he already had teachers and people that were like willing to help and were already like taking care of these children. And so that's how the Mawanda Project started, and then the school. And so we started with 15 students, $1,500.
That's fantastic.
That was it.
What level of school is this?
Yeah, it's a nursery and primary school. So like all the way to primary
nursery
7.
Through 7.
Yeah, so it's like 3 to 16.
Wow.
The ages are a little flexible, just depending on education
and this
level.
is $100 for like a year?
Well, they're in terms. So
okay. $100 per term.
Right.
Okay, so you were asking your friends and family like, hey, would you put this amount of money up for a student's term? And then, but like you said, I'm sure that once you started this project, you were able to take the people that have donated and kind of give them the same thing that you were getting, which was pictures and updates. And I mean, that's the best part, right?
It was like, it's exactly that. And even like with our newsletter right now, it's like, okay, here are the joys to celebrate. Like here are the updates of all the like things that we're doing in terms of like testing and, you know, like let's celebrate these things with them. And then it's like, there's also the like, hey, what are the challenges? Like, what are the things we can still do or that need to get done? And so it is very cool that like from the beginning, it's just like, okay, here's the update. And then like to this day, it's like we have a monthly newsletter, and I still talk to Pastor Dan and Boney like regular, like we talk the organization stuff, but we also always talk like, how's your family? Sending those picture updates all the time.